How I Met Your Mother, a show that ran for 9 seasons from the year 2005 to 2014, is one of my favorite television series for the balance it strikes between humor and wisdom. The main characters often share thoughts that many of us have considered in private, but have not gone as far to discuss with other people. For example, an episode in season 5 begins with Robin telling her friends Ted and Lily that referring to Barney as her boyfriend, which she has now said 100 times in a row, still sounds weird to say. Ted responds, "Anything sounds weird when you say it 100 times." He then proceeds to look at the bowl that he's holding in his hand and begins repeating the word bowl over and over again to prove his point. Bowl, 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 bowl. At the same time, Robin and Lily discuss what might be making the word boyfriend seem inadequate to describe Robin's relationship with Barney. At this point in the show, Barney does not seem to represent what Robin, in her heart, believes a boyfriend can and should be. The show is making an important point. Sometimes we employ commonly used words to describe something important in our lives, like boyfriend, but ultimately, the word may not really make clear what we hope to express. There are many words in the English language that exemplify this phenomenon. Can you think of any? I have one, connected. This word is widely used in a variety of contexts, though it isn't always clear what it signifies or what people are trying to express through its use. I'm not sure I realized just how many times connected gets used until I completed a listening campaign this past spring at Temple Sinai. The goal of the listening campaign was to hear from families who have children in kindergarten through 6th grade. Last year, the Education Committee and I deemed it critical to take a pulse on our Temple Sinai community. How were families feeling now, especially 2 years into COVID? What were their hopes in terms of Jewish education for themselves and their children? My committee took verbatim notes during these listening sessions. When I reviewed them, I found that the word connected and its antonym, disconnected, came up more than 100 times. Spoiler alert, in the months following our campaign, we decided to rename our kindergarten through 6th grade religious school to Kesher, a Hebrew word which means connection. I believe that the congregants we spoke with have a deep-seated longing for connection. The challenge, though, is this frequently used word has many different meanings to many different people. We need to develop a common understanding of what we collectively mean when we say connection. Only then will we understand how to build and measure connection. Dr. Ron Wolfson, professor of Jewish education at American Jewish University, has devoted much of his career to writing and teaching about the significance of connection in Judaism. Wolfson claims that another Hebrew word, brit, does the best job of expressing the Jewish idea of relationship. Brit translates to covenant, a pact between two or more people, a social contract in which each party has a responsibility to the other. In Judaism, The pact is not between one individual person and God, but rather an entire community and God. When God formally establishes the brit with Abraham, God promises to make him and his offspring a great nation, provided he follows God's command to lech lecha, to go forth to a land that I, God, will show you. The covenantal model, however, can be traced all the way back to the creation of the first two human beings, Adam and Eve, the anniversary of whom we celebrate today on Rosh Hashanah. In Rabbi Joseph B. Soloveitchik's important theological work, The Lonely Man of Faith, he presents two different versions of Adam in the Torah. Adam 1, who makes his appearance in Genesis chapter 1 as the first and only human, is given control of his dominion and his environment. According to Soloveitchik, Adam 1 sees the world and his relationships as functional and transactional. His motivation stems from his own domination of the world. Adam 2, though, is different. In Genesis chapter 2, God says, "It is not good for a person to be alone." And he goes on to create Eve. Soloveitchik teaches that this version of Adam is covenantal in nature. From Adam 2, we learn that living in a connected community, a community where we form not only a relationship with God, but also with other humans. This is the path to a meaningful existence. Dr. Arnold Eisen digs deeper into what a meaningful human-to-human connection looks like in his book, Taking Hold of Torah, Jewish Commitment and Community in America. He writes, "The strength of community as of ritual lies in its potential to bring people together despite differing backgrounds and beliefs, to take them out of themselves and into a space between, and then return them to themselves transformed." Community has the potential to bring diverse people together in a way that lets them step outside of their individual selves and into a space that is filled with uncertainty and possibility. When they return to themselves, to their private selves, to their private sphere, they will be transformed. This space between, this is where connection occurs. To maintain our brit with God, a central component of what it means to be Jewish, requires us to connect with other people in our communities. So how do we, as people, build connections, leaving our individual spaces for communal ones that are built between people, that enable individuals to escape themselves for a moment and then return changed? Wolfson provides a compelling model that comes in 4 steps. Number 1, listen. When people feel heard, the connection is deepened. Number 2, share. Tell the story of who we are. And we Jews are pretty good at telling stories. Number 3, do. The experience of doing leads to the sharing of feelings, a further revelation of the innermost self. In a way, these are lech lecha experiences, a going out of oneself that both heightens self-awareness and fosters engagement and connection. And number 4, trust. Trust, the ultimate payoff for building deep connections with others, is knowing that you are not alone. I believe Jewish ritual at its best can exemplify the building of connections in the way Wolfson suggests. I recently had the opportunity to learn from Rabbi Sarah Luria and Rabbi Lawrence Hoffman. Rabbi Luria is the founder and executive director of a Jewish organization based in Brooklyn called Beloved. Their mission is to create spaces for sacred connection and belonging. She shared, "Let people's state of being, however they feel when they walk in our doors, inform our liturgy, and let our liturgy inform people's state of being, so that there is a weaving of immanence and transcendence." In other words, by listening to people in our intimate spaces and sharing how they are feeling by the way of the larger themes found in our prayers, our transcendent prayers, the two are entwined together. How does this work on a practical level? Rabbi Luria tells the story of how she prepares to lead a service. She stands at the door, conversing with a few congregants. She then weaves their stories anonymously into the prayer experience. One person might share, "I experienced a loss this week." Another might share, "I celebrated a great joy in my family." Rabbi Luria's way of leading prayer highlights Wolfson's four-step approach to building connection. The rabbi listens to the congregants and then shares the story she hears with the congregation. The rest of the congregation then has an opportunity to listen. Collectively, the rabbi and the congregation engage in the age-old Jewish ritual of praying together. The congregants learn to trust each other, knowing that they are not alone in this journey that we call life. This kind of prayer experience has the potential to move people to build deep connections among congregants and clergy alike. Rabbi Lawrence Hoffman, professor emeritus at Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion, helps us to understand why Rabbi Luria's technique can be successful at connecting us on a deeper level. "We live in a world of chaos," he states. "As humans, we strive to give order to the world in which we live. Judaism can help us to do so through rituals such as prayer. Ritual can bring order into the chaotic world. Most importantly," he adds, "when ritual works, it connects our little story to a much bigger one. That is the weaving of the immanence and transcendence. When we do this important work together, outside of ourselves, in the space that exists between us, we feel less alone and more connected in our human endeavor." Looking specifically at the mourner's Kaddish, it becomes clear why this prayer is so important in the Jewish community. Many Jews will come to a service just to recite mourner's Kaddish, which, by the way, had nothing to do with mourning at all until the 8th century CE. The core of this Kaddish consists of the congregational response, "Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach Le'olam U'Amel Maya." Blessed be God's great name in all eternity. At some point in time, the Kaddish became a popular way to evoke a response in a public setting of prayer. But the words themselves are not explicitly about comforting mourners. The power of this ritual, rather, comes from the connection that is built between a mourner and their fellow community members. Traditionally, mourner's Kaddish is only recited by the mourner, and in a place where there is a minyan present, that is a group of 10 Jews total. Mourner's Kaddish builds connection in the following way. Number 1, listen. We listen to our fellow community members share the names of loved ones who are no longer with us. Number 2, share. We share names, sometimes even stories of the loved ones who are no longer with us. Number 3, do. We engage in the traditional call and response, a back and forth between mourners and the community. And number 4, trust. We show up to the temple knowing that we will not be alone. As a mourner, we have a community who will support us, who will show up and enable us to engage in this prayer together. Understanding that connection connotes a transformational space where people dwell together outside of their individual selves, and that Judaism requires us to build such connections in our communities. How might we build such connections in our everyday lives? No matter who you are, what you do for a living, we can all approach our gatherings with the goal of connecting. For those of us that are involved in the designing of gatherings, we can find inspiration in The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker. The first chapter is titled, Decide Why You're Gathering. At the surface, it seems rather obvious. But Parker rather points out that most people skip this first step altogether when they are planning a gathering. The biggest hurdle, she says, is that often the purpose of gathering gets confused with the category of the gathering itself. A helpful way to ensure that we plan purposeful gatherings, Parker says, is to employ what we call backwards design in the world of education. When we know our desired outcome, we can design our gatherings in ways that are in alignment. If our desired outcome, for instance, is to build enduring connections among a specific targeted group of people, then the gathering should involve some form of listening, sharing, and perhaps an activity that the group can engage in together. From there, all the choices you make should keep that purpose of connection in mind, including who we invite, the size of the group, and even the venue for the gathering. If successful, the gathering or the series of gatherings will bring people together in this targeted group in ways that lets them go outside of themselves and into the space between, so that when they return to themselves after the gathering, they are different in some way. The responsibility of connecting is not solely on those that plan our gatherings. Participants have an important role to play as well. We, as participants, must prepare ourselves to listen as others speak, to be willing to share pieces of our story, to openly engage in joint activities, and finally, to trust our fellow humans. What is so challenging about these steps on the participant level? In one of her most well-known TED Talks, The Power of Vulnerability, Brené Brown directly answers this question. Shame. Often we do not believe that we are worthy of connection. For those of us that participate in gatherings, we need to approach others with openness and with vulnerability. To let ourselves be seen, she says, is a choice we make each and every day. I feel lucky to be Jewish. I am part of a religion that addresses one of the fundamental truths of being human. We have an inherent desire to connect with one another. We do not want to be alone in the chaos that is life. To be Jewish means to be a part of the brit or covenant with God and with our fellow human beings. On Yom Kippur, we will read the following verse from the book of Deuteronomy. I make this covenant with its sanctions, not with you alone, but both with those who are standing here with us this day before our God, and with those who are not with us here on this day. The covenant is maintained by our connection with both God and other people. Our Jewish tradition reflects our covenantal responsibility in the holidays we celebrate, the rituals we enact, and the actions we commit ourselves to. Building connections, the space between ourselves and others that enable us to temporarily leave our own self-constraints and enter a place of uncertainty and new possibility so that we leave transformed. This is not limited to the Jewish sphere. We can build connections wherever we go. May 5783 be the year that we not only speak of our desire for connection, but where we find the strength to go out into the world and to create these sacred bonds. Kain Yehi Ratzon. May it be our will.